This is Anne, and today in this workshop I'm going to share some earth-friendly tips for recycling and reuse that my family has tried. We've tried to teach our children, and now they're grown up and they're teaching us new things. If there's anything in here that you want to follow up on or get more information on, there will be, each presentation will have a resource list, and there'll be a link to that resource list that you'll get at the end of the workshop. So during the workshop, think about and maybe later discuss some of these questions. Why is reusing and recycling worth it? It seems like a lot of work. But if everyone does their bit, think about multiplying that by millions and billions, and what a huge protection that is for our natural resources. We have better health, better lives, we lower our carbon emissions, and we protect our future. So how might careful selection of what you buy be beneficial? Well, if you reduce your waste, you have a lot less to get rid of. So try to avoid buying non-recyclables. You'll also reduce the amount that goes into our poor landfills. And then most of what you buy, you'll be able to reuse or recycle. What ideas from this workshop might you try? Well, I know from my own experience that learning new habits is challenging. There's a resource in the list that we're giving you, a book called Better Than Before that I would recommend changing your habits. It can be fun. The author has a lot of practical tips on self-psychology. So I hope you'll find one idea in this workshop to try and to make a habit. One of the first things our family did was to get a handy container to collect our food scraps. We like the stainless steel. The ceramic ones tend to break, and this one we've had for years. In the lid, there's a charcoal filter, and that keeps the smell inside. This is a great gift idea for giving to others or to put on your own wish list. Now, in our family, no one wanted to take out the organic waste. And especially if they were busy or if it was bad weather. So my husband put up the hanging bucket. So it's close to the back door, easy to get to. It's under cover so you don't get wet, and it's hanging so no critters can get in it. And that way you can take it out, dump it, and then later on, when you're not busy, take it all the way out to your compost. Much of the food can be composted in a worm bin. And on the resource list, there's a really fun YouTube on how you can make your own worm bin out of things you have or could easily order. This could be a fun family pandemic project. You can also make your yard and garden waste into compost with a little wire and plastic. You can mulch and enrich your flowers and shrubs and trees. But maybe you're not into composting. Well, then just take your food scraps and your yard waste and put them in those green bins that your waste management company will supply you, and they'll make compost for other people. We like to use compost in our garden. We've had our vegetable garden in the same place for over 35 years, and we use our own compost and bulk buying of compost from Cedar Grove Company. This is our first asparagus. You can see the little pink heads coming up. I took that a couple of weeks ago, and last week we ate the asparagus. You can start small, maybe just a little patch, but once you start eating that fresh produce and there's no packaging or anything to worry about, you start to get addicted. Now, the cold frame will help extend your growing season, and there is a YouTube reference so that you can learn how to make one out of things that some of the things you might already have. This acts as a greenhouse, and you can grow things further on into the fall and winter and start them earlier in the spring. The bok choy in there was planted in early spring, and we ate the first of it yesterday. This was our winter garden row, and it's the same row 3 times. Makes it look like a real garden, but we just had 1 row. And even without a cold frame, many things will grow in the winter. We got lots of different hardy greens and kale and parsley and broccolini and some root vegetables. And we just put a plastic, clear plastic over the top of it during the freezing weather, and it even survived the snow. There is a link to winter gardens in the Northwest in your resource list. So maybe you're not into gardening, or even if you do garden, you still need to go shopping for some of your groceries. So here's one rule, BYOBB. Well, we can't do that now. That's bring your own bottles and bags. But after the pandemic, we can start doing that again. Here's some different sizes I've collected. I like the glass jars. They are easier to recycle if you can't reuse them all. There's a great recycling at a glass place in Seattle. The plastic things have to be shipped out further. But the bags, the reusable bags, are especially important. There is a great book in the resource list called The Last Straw. It's a blog by a woman who tried to get rid of all her single-use plastic in a year. It's pretty interesting reading. You can use those jars to label and store your food. And then when you run out, take them to the store. But before you put anything in them, ask the cashier to weigh them so that you're just paying for the contents. You can bring your own labels and pen. And I only bring in a few at a time so as not to overwhelm the cashier. Sometimes the liquid things are sold in pints and quarts, and it just so happens that some brands like Classico, they already have the lines, measurement lines for you on them, and so it's perfect to save those jars to buy bulk oil or soy sauce, and it can be cheaper to buy in bulk like that. Now, it's hard to avoid all packaging in plastic, so pick your plastics. Try to find ones that you could wash. We dry ours in the drainer or hang them on the clothesline, and they can be used again for shopping or refrigerating or any kind of storage rather than buying a new bag of plastic, a new box of plastic bags. This is my car trunk. I try to keep my bags in there so that I don't forget them, and as soon as I unload my groceries, I try to put it back out there. The things you can't reuse, then of course, sort for your waste management company. There are different guidelines for different companies. So there's a link in your resource list to King County Waste Management. You can type in your city and they will tell you what your guidelines are. This is great and very, very helpful for you to get it right, because the recycling places have a lot of stuff to go through. We visited one and it's pretty amazing. And if we can do our part, it really helps them. You can also check and see how you're doing when you sort like this. Am I putting less in the landfill, more recycling? And then there's those single-use plastic bags. Well, they can be recycled if you stuff them in a bag and tie them securely. A lot of places will take them, Target and other grocery stores. It's really much, much better to do that than to put them in your garbage for the landfill. They take hundreds of years to decompose. So I hope you have found one thing you think would be fun to try yourself or with your family. I'm still learning things. And as many of us develop these habits, it will have such a positive impact on our earth and on our lives. Thank you. So now, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. I think we have a few minutes for that.
What was the name of the book that you mentioned?
I mentioned 2 books. One was called The Last Straw, And that will be on the resource guide. That you can, there'll be a link to that, and you'll be able to go on and get all the resources. The other book is called Better Than Before by Brene Brown, and it's the one about to change your habits, not just for recycling, but for everything. It's wonderful.
And I have a question. It seems like we were told that, and if I'm not mistaken, only about 10% of the things that we want recycled actually get recycled. And I don't know if anyone saw recently on Frontline, they had a really good program about plastic. But, you know, with all our efforts, we're still not doing a good job, right?
Yeah, we need to do more, and the markets change, so they have to find new markets. The important thing is for us to do our due diligence and keep up on how they want things sorted and what things they can take and what things they can't take, so that when it goes to the recycling, they're able to find markets for what we do put in. But they do have people put in things that they can't recycle, and then those end up going to the landfill anyway. But I don't know the percentages. It depends on your company. And I do think that I'm hopeful. I think it's getting better. But it is discouraging to hear that. And
but I just want the Frontline program. What they said was that the companies that are wanting us to really recycle are the ones that are making all the plastic. Rather than decreasing the amount of plastic they produce, they're telling us to recycle, making it sound like that's the way to go, rather than them making less, you know, items that have plastic.
Yes. And one way to handle that is that we're the consumers. So if we don't buy the plastic, if we try to avoid it, and a lot of people do that, then the word will start getting around. If you tell in your grocery store, ask for glass or not plastic, it takes a lot of consumer action for us to change them instead of them to change us. You're right about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are things that they make out of plastic that you wouldn't believe, though. We had been buying our milk in the cardboard cartons with the wax on them, and we found when we took a tour of our center that they prefer the milk in the plastic because there's a market for that kind of plastic that the milk jugs come in, and they make all sorts of things. They make rugs. We bought our carpet. The last carpet we made is all made out of recycled plastic, and it feels just like regular carpet. So it's a matter of them finding entrepreneurs finding things, you know, setting up companies that can do the recycling. But you're right, it's better not to have it in the first place. Okay,
Yeah.
Is our time about up, or do we have more questions?
You have the time. There's a couple of chat questions.
Okay.
The first one was, where do you buy bulk soy sauce and oils and the like?
Well, I mostly, because I have a Puget Community Co-op, a PCC near me, that's where I get mine. So I can get all sorts of things bulk. But I know Whole Foods, I don't have a Whole Foods near me, but I know that Whole Foods has a bulk section, and maybe some other people in our group know other places that have bulk.
Fred Meyer has bulk.
That's right, they do. Fred Meyer has bulk, yeah.
And here's a related question. Why are some stores in the area that allow you to bring your own jars what are some stores in the area that allow you to bring your own jars for the bulk section? So separate from the, you know, the dry goods. Yes.
For bulk, for liquid bulk, you mean? Or just any bulk?
Well, then the rest of the question says, I tried to bring my own jar for the almond butter grinder at Whole Foods, and I had to use their containers due to food safety guidelines.
Oh. Well, I know that I bring mine to Puget Community Co-op. And I know there's one in Kirkland. I don't know, you know, you try to find someplace that's close to you, but they have different guidelines, I guess, at different stores. So I don't know about Fred Meyer.
Fred Meyer bulk is currently not available. They have no bulk right now at Fred Meyer just due to the virus.
Right. Right. But when they don't have it, can you bring your own container?
That's a good question. I haven't tried. I bring my own plastic bags from the cereal that have nice plastic bag liners, and I use those for the bulk. And they've been taping those for years. So.
Okay.
At Fred Meyer, they made me they made me go back and get their plastic bags one time, but then more recently I've snuck through with my own little canvas bags. So.
Yeah. Well, and if the bottles are too conspicuous, you can put it in a bag, and then when you get home, put it in your bottle.
The other thing that I've been using is an organization called TerraCycle, and they've recycled Cliff Bar wrappers, and they also recycle other energy bar wrappers. And they use this material by stripping it up and making grocery bags and things that you can shop for food with. They've been doing this for almost 5 or 6 years now, but they've changed their processes along the way. And I haven't really been up to speed as to what they're doing currently, but they have a wider scope of programs for recycling many, many things now. And I don't know exactly how to do it, but it costs money this time around. You have to buy a box, and then you can fill your box up with many items, and then it would go out Federal Express to them with the cost of the box, is what I assume. But anyway, it's a program that I wondered if anybody else had any experience with or knows anything of the current usage of that program.
I have never heard of that, but that sounds really interesting. I like to see the people that are have creative ideas and will start little businesses. That's what we need. We need local recycling and local companies that can do some of this this work. So thanks for sharing that.
Okay, thank you.